So there's a sentiment among much of the COD community that I want to talk about today, especially now given that we're nearing the summer, which is a prime time for video game reveals. Now, the next Call of Duty is all but officially confirmed to be a World War II shooter, titled Vanguard. Now, there's been a ton of rumors from leakers that it's alternate history or that it's just a continuation of Sledgehammer's previous title. It doesn't really matter, because when the leak dropped, the number one thing I saw was, oh my god, another World War II game? I can't wait for the next Battlefield. Or at least a sentiment that was similar. Because much like Call of Duty, there's been a bunch of rumors and leaks surrounding the next Battlefield title. With the first taster reveal set to come in June, I think it's fair to start talking about realistic expectations COD players should have regarding Battlefield. Because again, the sentiment I'm seeing on Twitter, Reddit, and YouTube is that somehow Battlefield will be Call of Duty's savior. A game that pushes COD to do better, or even a game that will siphon a good amount of COD's player base. As someone who's played both franchises since the late 2000s, I think I'm well equipped to give COD players a reality check regarding Battlefield. Think of this video as that, because the Battlefield franchise has had its fair share of issues. Remember, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. So some of the things I've seen play into the sentiment regarding how Battlefield will be better and take over the genre is that COD players have this general idea that everything they dislike about COD will somehow either not be present in Battlefield or that Battlefield will somehow avoid these missteps. For the most part, these issues range from skill-based matchmaking, cheaters, lack of communication from the developers, and a misplaced focus by developers on things that don't really matter, like cosmetics. So let's hit up the two big ones, skill-based matchmaking and cheaters. The Battlefield series was traditionally a PC-only franchise. When they moved over to console, they stuck to their roots. Battlefield 3 was the first title to bring a server browser over to console. Essentially, like on PC, you could filter maps and modes and pick a server, which ideally meant picking the lowest ping with the rule set you want. Now, previous entries like Bad Company 1 and 2 on console didn't have this feature. I can't find any documentation on how matchmaking was done exactly, but given the complaints about unbalanced teams from the players of those games, it seems as if any sort of team balancing was limited to the server owners on PC versions of those games. Now, it's been 10 years since the release of Bad Company 2. Times have changed, something Battlefield players started to notice with EA's ever-tightening grip on what the community could and could not do. With Battlefield 4, EA started a rent-a-server program, essentially the idea being if you wanted to run your own server for Battlefield 4 and subsequently Battlefield 1, you'd have to go through EA. While really cool for console players, PC players were understandably upset. In the 8 years since the release of Battlefield 4, things have only become more and more restrictive. I and many others have noticed with the release of Battlefield 1 and Battlefield 5, not only were gameplay elements dumbed down, but things such as the server browser were taking a back seat. Less and less functionality, more restrictions on custom servers, and a general push towards a quick match feature. If you played Battlefield 5, you'd probably notice very balanced, tightly contested games if you played using their Find a Game quick match feature, compared to the matches you played if you selected through their very bare bones server browser. What I'm saying is that yes, there's forms of skill-based matchmaking in Battlefield, something you only really notice in the series' latest outings. Now, nothing is confirmed for Battlefield 6, but EA is in the business of making money, and given the usage of matchmaking algos in Apex Legends as well as recent patent discoveries surrounding FIFA, let's just say addictive play algorithms in gaming are the future. No series is safe. Cheating! Well, this one is easy. I mentioned previously that owning and running servers is in Battlefield's DNA since the beginning of the series. Server admins are really good at monitoring and kicking cheaters. It's one reason why Battlefield 3 and 4 are playable on PC today despite there being exploits that were never fixed. But the thing is that Battlefield 5 and Battlefield 1, DICE's latest entries, didn't make use of the Punkbuster anti-cheat found in the previous Battlefield entries, instead opting for Fair Fight. Now you're thinking, oh well, that's still anti-cheat more than Warzone and COD, ha. Yeah, Fair Fight is literally the same technology found in Warzone and Call of Duty's anti-cheat. Because yes, there is one, but all it does is take screenshots when suspicious behavior is detected. It's a Fisher-Price level anti-cheat. Battlefield 5 and Battlefield 1 has some of the worst cheating problems on PC. At their peak, I'd put it up there with PUBG and Warzone. In fact, Battlefield 5 wasn't even permanently banning cheaters until the situation became dire. So yeah, it was bad, and the only reason why you won't find as many cheaters in Battlefield 5 now is because the game is pretty much dead and abandoned. But that's another issue we'll hit up. Now again, there's still so much we don't know about Battlefield 6, but given DICE and EA's track record as of late, I'm going to expect cheating to still be an issue. Maybe not so much on the multiplayer side where we have custom servers, my bad, if we have custom servers. Admins will just kick and ban them from ever returning, but if the rumored Battle Royale is true, there's no way to avoid things such as skill-based matchmaking and cheaters, because that's all under the control of EA and DICE, and they don't have the best track record. Almost all good things that stem from Battlefield are due to the community's efforts. Community servers balancing teams to be fun, community servers kicking and banning cheaters and toxicity, community servers just making the game fun overall. There's something else I want to bring up. Yes, the return of Battlefield may force COD as a franchise to do better. Increased competition in theory benefits the customer. But let's look towards COD's worst year as a franchise, Infinite Warfare. That same year was Battlefield's best year as a franchise with the release of Battlefield 1. COD still outsold Battlefield. More people played COD. COD made more money. Sadly, COD as a franchise is too big to fail. Even if commercial expectations end up being low for COD 2021, all Activision will do is release a remaster of Modern Warfare 3 or Black Ops 2 and tie it to buying COD 2021. Bam, bing, they're all set. The ball is in DICE's court, and honestly, I don't think they'll meet expectations. But let's quickly talk about the fact that they're very different games. Yes, Battlefield players for years and years have had this level of arrogance or superiority over Call of Duty players. We have to adjust for recoil, we have to lead our shots, we don't earn kill streaks, we are the kill streaks. But at the end of the day, both games are casual shooters. We can sit here and argue which game is easier, but that's not the point. The funny thing is that they're similar but very different at a sandbox level. Your typical 6v6 COD multiplayer fan will not enjoy Battlefield. Large maps, learning to use vehicles, playing the objective, learning how to use destructible environments to your advantage. It's pretty different to the point where I honestly believe most COD players will put it down as fast as they picked it up. If most of my teammates in Hardpoint or Domination barely have the understanding as to what an objective is, I don't have hope for the average COD player's ability to switch to Battlefield, where if you don't play the objective, you'll probably get kicked from the server. But let's wrap up with the biggest reason why I don't see the Battlefield franchise being a real competitor anymore. Their handling of Battlefield 5. Go play Battlefield 3 or 4, then play Battlefield 1 or 5. You'll see the difference I'm talking about. The series has, at least in my opinion, started to go downhill, a shell of its former self. To me, it started with Battlefield 1. Gameplay and its complexities were dumbed down. Battlefield 5 pretty much removed weapon customization outside of cosmetics in favor of a skill tree for weapons and vehicles. Gone were options of grips and muzzles to change how the gun feels from Battlefield 4. In all honesty, it made sense as the logical conclusion to be the removal of depth started with Battlefield 1. I mean, even look at the UI for Battlefield 1. It looks like they copied and pasted it over from Star Wars Battlefront. Comparing it to Battlefield 4, aesthetically it looks nice if you enjoy the minimalism, but functionality-wise, it's worse. And it seemed like at the time that this would be the direction they were heading in. A trend continued in Battlefield 5. In fact, let's start off with a primer, something that should have been a red flag for how Battlefield 5 was going to be handled. The Deluxe Edition bonus. See, the Deluxe Edition of Battlefield 5 promised 20 skins delivered to players via 20 airlifts. One a week. The problem was they didn't communicate that the 20 skins were actually 5 skins broken up. Yep, they were fragmented out. Imagine a blueprint in COD. It's technically one skin. But imagine instead of paying 1800 COD points for it, you paid 200 COD points per attachment. It's not a huge deal, but a red flag showing just how DICE would handle Battlefield 5. Lazy and poor communication. They did this fragmentation to Deluxe Edition owners with not just weapons, but player cosmetics too. Now you're thinking, that's on EA, DICE probably had no control. Fair. So let's look at the places where DICE dropped the ball. First, the list of promised features which were either never added or removed. Let's quickly run down it. Weather effects were toned down to the point they didn't really exist. Shooting from ladders, removed. Emergency landings for planes, removed. dragging downed allies, something that was promised to be a feature, but apparently they didn't even start looking into it if it was a viable feature till post-launch, which is really stupid as reviving in Battlefield 5 seemed to be built in conjunction with the ability to drag bodies of your allies. Like, why are you figuring out almost a year after launch that a feature you advertised when the game was unveiled isn't actually possible? And let's not forget what pretty much put the nail in the coffin for Battlefield 5 for many Battlefield fans: the constant changes to its time to kill. See, Battlefield 5 was majorly lacking in the content sphere, and at the same time, Battlefield 5 has had some time to kill and time to death issues, which can be boiled down to network issues. Essentially, according to DICE's internal data, players weren't sticking around to play. DICE believed this was due to the aforementioned time to kill and time to death discrepancy, not something like a lack of content. So instead of working towards fixing the network issues that caused this discrepancy, they instead decided to drastically increase the time to kill, much to the dismay of the core community, the people still playing, the people still spending money. They decided to do this just before Christmas, which makes sense. Christmas is when there's usually a huge influx of new players. Here's the kicker. A couple weeks later, they reversed the changes. 1 year later, at around Christmas time, they did the same time to kill change again, this time breaking their Firestorm Battle Royale mode, which at this point was already dead. It gets better. They somewhat reversed the changes again. At this point, you can't really blame loyal players for switching to games like Modern Warfare, which had a shitty Battlefield mode in the form of Ground War, or at the time, COD's newest phenomenon, Warzone. Oh, and they finally implemented visual tank customization almost 2 years after its release. It was one of those advertised features that either came much after launch or never at all. Players weren't just sick of the time to kill changes or the lack of content, but more so with the lack of care for the game by the devs. It's as if the devs were just tired after delivering the best piece of content for Battlefield 5, the Pacific. It seemed they just didn't believe in the project anymore. They ended up dropping support to focus on Battlefield 6. See, many of my issues with Battlefield are more so with DICE and EA. It stems from their treatment of Battlefield 5, a game which had so much potential, especially on the Firestorm Battle Royale side. You know the saying, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I'm optimistic for Battlefield 6, but cautiously so, especially given the desync between the game sold and game given to their player base with Battlefield 5. I just don't trust DICE to make a good Battlefield anymore, especially if they're the ones in charge creatively. There's a ship of Theseus problem when it comes to large popular IPs in gaming. See, employees, programmers, artists, creative directors, and the visionaries behind many beloved franchises come and go. The IP, the brand, stays the same. The question I've been thinking about lately is, are the franchises we love still the franchises we love when the people making them, the folks in charge, change? At their core, Battlefield 4 and Battlefield 5 are, yes, still the same, but the details which made Battlefield 4 fun are very different because much of the development team is different. At their core, Modern Warfare 2 and Modern Warfare 2019 are kind of the same COD games, but the important details which made Modern Warfare 2 fun are very different because, much again, the development team is different. I guess what I'm trying to say is, don't have expectations for Battlefield 6 or really any game to be this masterpiece. Hell, you probably shouldn't even expect games to be working at launch anymore. Outriders. Advertising for video games especially toe the line between false and fair advertising. Hype trains are fueled by influencers, and that makes it even worse. So just set your expectations accordingly. Don't hype up Battlefield 6 if you're a COD fan. You're only going to set yourself up for disappointment. Anyway, that'll do it for today's video. Let me know in the comments below, are you guys looking forward to Battlefield 6? If so, why? Do the usual YouTube things, it helps the channel out, and I'd really appreciate it. It's been real, it's been fun, it's been real fun, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.